14-1, the United States abstaining. Just take us through what we understand this resolution is about and why this one has passed, but the US's one on Friday didn't.
Well, the language has been changed from the one on Friday. The United States, of course, has abstained from it, although the language is actually stronger than the one that they put forward on Friday. But it is linked to the unconditional release of hostages, which I think would have been a deal breaker as far as the United States is concerned. But it's taken 5 months, Kamali, to get this far. You heard the round of applause in the chamber. Now, you should remember that this is legally binding, but when it comes to these kind of resolutions, it is difficult to legally enforce them. But it is calling for an immediate ceasefire for the rest of the month of Ramadan. There's about 2 weeks left from that. But we heard the reasons about why the United States abstained from their representative, Linda Thomas Greenfield. This is what she had to say.
We appreciated the willingness of members.
Yeah, they fucking abstain because they suck dick, okay? That's why. They're fucking bad. They're bad guys. And they don't like good things, and they like bad things. That's why they fucking abstain from it. That's the real reason. It's very simple.
Members of this council to take some of our edits and improve on this resolution. Still, certain key edits were ignored, including our request to add a condemnation of Hamas. And we did not agree with everything in the resolution. For that reason, we were unfortunately not able to vote yes. However, as I've said before, we fully support some of the critical objectives in this non-binding resolution. And we believe it was important for the council to speak out and make clear that our ceasefire any ceasefire must come with the release of all hostages.
Well, it certainly has significant moral weight as well on all parties in the conflict to bring about an end. Of course, negotiations have been going on in Qatar. The Israeli negotiating team came back over the weekend. They're saying that there is a 50-50 chance that a deal will be put in place. But of course, the ceasefire, the UN resolution, the weight really, the global consensus that this needs to come to a stop and build up to a more permanent ceasefire is becoming much greater. And that's because the humanitarian situation in Gaza is deteriorating all the time. The number of people who have been killed is rising astronomically. And also the UN is warning that...
I can't believe the anti-Semitism coming out of the United States Security Council. The UN Security Council is fucked up, boys. They did it again. They did it again. Saying, hey, Israel, cut it out. At least during Ramadan. Crazy stuff. Real big stuff coming out. I mean, the fact that the United States abstained from it is actually important instead of vetoing it, which was what they've been doing for the past 5 fucking months. I guess like it is now officially gotten to that point. Hey, maybe in another 5 months when we get like 60,000, maybe 100,000 dead Palestinian children, the United States will potentially go, hey, Israel, we actually think this is bad and wrong. Cut it out. We are no longer abstaining from a UN Security Council vote.
That there is the imminent threat of starvation, particularly in the north of Gaza, unless a ceasefire comes in, and the amount of aid being delivered is not ramped up significantly.
Within the last hour, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said he will not be sending a delegation to Washington as a result of this vote. Well, standing by for us now in Jerusalem with a bit more on that is our senior reporter, Catherine Norris-Trent. Catherine, good to talk to you. What more can you tell us today about the Israeli reaction?
Hello there, Nadia. Well, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, is said to be furious that the US failed to veto this resolution calling for a ceasefire, and he acted quickly, immediately, pretty much putting out a statement saying that delegation of senior Israeli officials, which had been requested by Joe Biden, the US president, to travel to Washington, D.C., to the White House for talks, to listen to the US proposals for an alternative to an all-out ground offensive in Rafah. That delegation won't be leaving, says Benjamin Netanyahu. He said that the U.S. decision not to veto this ceasefire...
He's going to kill the American delegation. He's like, we have decided that the American envoy is actually also working with Hamas, and and we cannot allow that kind of thing to occur. So we had to promptly and swiftly execute the American delegation at the UN for being a part of Hamas. My Benjamin Netanyahu kind of goes hard, I think, low-key. I think I do a decent Benjamin Netanyahu.
Oh, you mean? Oh, I thought you meant. Okay. I thought you were saying Benjamin Netanyahu goes hard.
No. His voice is very deep, like this. But I'm saying I think I do a decent job, like a decent Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah. You're also really good at copying his politics and, believing in his cause.
Yeah.
You do that really well.
Well, that too. I mean, obviously, the reason why I'm so good at imitating him is because I love him for, his genocide.
Yeah.
Like, there's no need. No, actually, I like him for everything else. Separate the art from the artist.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah. Benjamin Netanyahu, phenomenal at domestic politics, actually. The apartheid stuff is like one thing. Hating Palestinians is one thing. But, all the other stuff, he has great tax reform. Do Israelis even do domestic politics? I feel like everything is like, everything is geared around genocide. Like, I feel like the government literally is like, hey, by the way, we've decided to like execute gays. Like, and they'll be like, no, don't do that. But then also like the next day they'll be like, oh, but the Palestinian gays are being executed too. So I guess like we should focus on that, Because, they're very secular, but then psychopathic right-wingers will completely captivate the entire population by being like, hey, I know you guys fucking hate this shit. I know you guys hate, how far right we are, but also think about how many Palestinians we're killing. You know what I mean? It's just how it is.
Which doesn't call first for a liberation of Israeli hostages, hurts Israel's war effort and contradicts the U.S. stance.
It hurts Israel's war effort. Because I can't believe the UN didn't demand the hostage release from the hostage release that cannot logistically happen without a ceasefire. Like, this is so stupid. A liberal Zionist concludes today was the day Netanyahu decided to lose the war. Shai Ben Ephraim says, American officials feel that Bibi is causing a diplomatic crisis intentionally. One said, a lot of that is self-defeating. The prime minister could have chosen a different course to align with the U.S. on the meaning of this resolution. He chose not to, apparently on political purposes. Regarding the meeting scheduled in Washington on the Rafah operation canceled by Netanyahu, an official said he was afraid he might offer something reasonable. He was afraid we might offer something reasonable. He would rather than a fight with us, even if it's not in Israel's interest. Israeli officials, meanwhile, told Channel 12 that canceling the meetings in D.C. is a miserable decision that will haunt us. Dude, Dude, I love that he's going after America. I kind of think it's dope.
But he's canceling a meeting.
No. I'm saying that like he has openly and since day one been like, Joe Biden, I don't care that you bear hugged me. Fuck your mom. Like, Joe Biden will come out and be like, no, we love a two-state, Jack. Like, we got a Palestinian state.
Joe Biden calls him annoying in private or something. Well,
Whoa, dude. Are we allowed to say that? Is he allowed to say that? He's pretty crazy. He's been pretty crazy. No, what I mean is like, Joe Biden will come out and be like, listen, Jack, you can kill every Palestinian child, but one day there will be a two-state solution. And then Benjamin Netanyahu will be like, no, there won't be. Like the next day or like 3 hours later. Bro, they had Anthony Blinken go to Israel to be like, do not invade Rafah. Do not invade Rafah. I'm telling you right now, you're out of your fucking mind. If you think you're going to invade Rafah and have this be like not a massive fuck up, you're insane. Don't do it. Israel, while he was in the meeting, took over a historic amount of hectares of Palestinian land. They seized like 800 hectares of Palestinian land while he was in the meeting. He got out of the meeting and they're like, what do you think about, your administration has said like settlements are bad. And while you were in this meeting, like they took over, the most amount of Palestinian land. And he was like, yeah, that's bad, I think. I don't really know. they're doing that on purpose. Like they're openly, Benjamin Netanyahu is openly saying like, I don't care about America. Like they're gonna keep giving me money. They're gonna keep giving me the guns.
Does Anthony Blinken care? Like
I think
it's a strange. I don't know.
I think there's a realpolitik of it where I do think that like Israel's actions of this magnitude is reflecting poorly on American power.
Right.
It shows like that we have no control over our own attack dog. You know what I mean? So, and I think that it definitely like it is moved beyond like, oh, this is really hard to like do PR around. Oh no, too many Palestinian children dead. Like that kind of looks bad. Like I don't think that's the point. I think there's a larger problem here, which is that the rest of the world is looking at America and America's rabid attack dog and going, "What the fuck? You can't even rein your shit in. Like what's wrong with you? Why do you keep giving them guns?
Yeah.
Like why do you keep giving them more weapons as you simultaneously are saying like, don't fucking do this?" And I think that is the problem.
It's a hilarious situation. That's outside of all the death. It's just like they have no control.
Yeah, it's completely.
But they have to keep supplying.
Yeah. What happens if Israel refuses to abide? What's the potential for extending the ceasefire?
I don't think the UN does anything.
The UN doesn't do anything. It's just that like it adds another line of official pressure to Israel's actions.
That's been there at the United Nations Security Council and with regard to Israel since the beginning of this war. Netanyahu said that this was a clear retreat. The US has since hit back and denied that, saying this does not represent a policy shift. But in some of the words that Netanyahu's been putting out already since this UN vote, you can see just how dismayed, angry he is.
That shit,
he says
dude.
It gives Hamas hope that international pressure will allow for a ceasefire without the release of Israel's abductees. So it's just laying bare once again the rift between the Biden administration and the current Israeli government.
Joining us now to talk about Trump's deadline in New York tomorrow and much more, New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a Democrat. Congresswoman, thanks for joining us. So 5 years ago, as a brand new member of the House of Representatives, you grilled Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen, about whether Mr. Trump had lied about his finances for tax purposes. Attorney General of New York, Letitia James, says that testimony directly led to her office's fraud investigation.
I don't care about this shit. Unless, like, where's the actual Gaza stuff? Because they hyped this shit up like she's talking about Gaza, which she did. She called it a genocide.
Whoa. That's so brave.
I mean, it is for American politics. It's pretty fucking brave, to be fair. Like in America, when you say that, they kill you. They don't kill you, but it is low key kind of wild.
That has serious and specific connotations and allegations. It's defined by the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. So you, just to clarify here, you believe the Israeli military, the Israeli government are actively trying, they intend to destroy the Palestinian people, and not that what's happening is horrible, but it's happening because Israel is going after the terrorists of Hamas who attacked them on October 7th, and Hamas embeds within the civilian population?
Well, Jake, you're absolutely right. This word is extremely serious. It's one that's taken with extraordinary gravity. And to me, the threshold of intent is a high one. It is a serious one and is not one that is made lightly. However, when we look at the precipice of what is happening with a forced famine of 1.1 million Gazans, where multiple governments, NGOs, and even officials within the United States State Department have stated themselves plainly that the Israeli government and leaders in the Israeli government are intentionally denying, blocking, and slow walking this aid and are precipitating a mass famine. I believe we have crossed the threshold of intent. It is horrific. I think it is extremely clear and it is extremely important that all people understand the difference between people and their governments, Israelis and the Israeli government, Palestinians from Hamas. But what we are seeing here, I think, with a forced famine is beyond our ability to deny or explain away. There is no targeting of Hamas in precipitating a mass famine of 1 million people, half of whom are children.
So I asked Israeli officials about your speech, and they say, we are allowing hundreds of aid trucks into Gaza every single day. They're trying to increase those numbers. They have to inspect the cargo to make sure no weapons are getting in, weapons that would be used by Hamas against the people of Israel. Israeli officials also argue this war could end tomorrow if Hamas freed the hostages and laid down the arms. Do you disagree?
I do disagree, because when we are talking about famine, the actions of Hamas should not be tied to whether a 3-year-old can eat. The actions of Hamas do not justify forcing thousands, hundreds of thousands of people to eat grass as their bodies consume themselves. We and the Israeli government has a right to go after Hamas. But we are talking about a population of millions of innocent Palestinians. We are talking about collective punishment, which is injustifiable. And the excuses that the Israeli government is giving about what they are and are not allowing simply do not square with what the UK government is stating, with what international aid organizations are stating, and even what our own State Department officials are stating, which is that they are not allowing aid to go through. When they're talking about inspections, we're talking about U.S. aid, the United States aid. And so I think that if we are to operate as allies, then we must operate in good faith to uphold the principles of democracy, which includes respect for human rights, and also proving the value of our democracy, which is that we are different than authoritarian, and we are different from other types of regimes with no regard for innocent people.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.